Starting.
They they processed and confirmed.
Yes. Your audience will see it in a moment. Get ready. Is my audience here?
I didn't read the comments. I took a page from you and don't read the comments.
The internet can totally see you now. To stop, use your encoder. Okay, so I guess we are back, I believe. Yes, we are. Alright, so I've got my sexist image up on the screen for the time being. And as I continue, I will add in our representative images, but that's going to take a little work from uh, Paint or whatever program I decide to pull up to do the resizing. At the very least, I can probably put the chat up on the screen. Oh nope, that didn't work. I mean, it loaded, but it certainly wasn't the right region of the page.
You know what I just thought about?
There we
I
go.
want. I wonder how they're going to. I wonder when they're going to write an article and how they're going to write it about how probably problematic calling a woman a tease is.
I wonder if they've done that, because that seems like something that they would have touched upon by now.
Yeah, I would think that they would have done something, but you can never be too sure.
At the very least, there is definitely a Tumblr post um, in there somewhere. There's got to be something about that, because they make issues out of absolutely everything.
Like, oh, a man said hi to me and complimented me. I'm triggered now. Why can't we just have a world without men? OMG, yes, I would so love for this to happen or something.
Okay, we're getting our viewing back. This is just beautiful. All is going according to plan, I think, or something. All right, so now I'm going to be resizing some images as we speak. If I can figure out a good size. Oh, that actually, whenever I say a good size now, I can't help but think of that stupid comment that kept showing up on the Tumblr fat acceptance video.
I was actually going to say, I think it was yesterday at work somebody said that. I think they were trying to say make sure that they have a good size of licenses or something. And that was all I could think of.
Man, they just ruin everything.
Or it could have been something I saw on TV or something where they're like, I want a good sized, I don't know, glasses or something. But all I could think of was that good sized boobs, idiot.
Yeah, I still don't know what that means, and I I'm not going to worry about it, because my guess is nothing of value.
That's usually how I see it. He doesn't even define what that is, so. And he just repeats it.
I guess I could have left your image the way it was. It seems like it was already, I'm going to have to say it again, a good size.
And it was transparent.
So, literally dying.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Forgive me, I tend to make outdated references.
I saw the My Chemical Romance reference.
Yeah, I don't know who is the so-called edgy band anymore.
I don't know if there is one anymore.
Yeah, because it's. I mean, what's the popular one that? Oh man, I can't even think of the name. One Direction or something.
Yeah, but they're just a boy band. They're not really like, oh,
Yeah, it's like we don't even play our own instruments. We just look good on camera or something.
yeah, it's not like, oh, we're gonna rape your mouth or something. It's just, oh, we're boys and girls like us. And I mean, if you can imagine that, the idea that boy bands purely exist to attract women to or teenage girls.
I mean, I for one never would have guessed, but what do I know?
Well, you don't have a fancy college education that you're going to keep reminding people of, but then you're going to say, "Oh, I can debate better than these people with degrees, even though they have degrees in like gender studies or something," which I feel like has no real form of criticism. Like at least in English, the in theory, it's supposed to teach you about literary criticism and formulate your own opinions. Whether or not that actually happens is another conversation. Criticism happens in the sense that your views better align with the socio-political views of every other idiotic professor and student in the curriculum.
Oh boy,
What?
I just can't seem to get things to work. But that's my fault.
Well, that's what happens when you're a man. Things don't work.
I thought they did because that was the privilege at work or something.
Well, remember we just learned today that women are invincible. So then why is there all this complaining and why is there feminism? I don't know.
That is a very good question, and I'm sure that there is some sort of slippery workaround for that as to why your question is a problem.
Speaking of workarounds, I don't. This isn't the third weekend in April, but if it were, well, I don't think it would matter. But let's assume that it does. If it were the third weekend in April, that term workaround would have another meaning. One I'm glad I don't have to worry about anymore.
Do I
It,
know what this is?
it was one of those things where if it was the third weekend, I'd have to basically stay up and overnight for work, and if something didn't work, which it never did, then I'd have to make sure I have a workaround ready.
Ah, okay.
I don't think I ever had to deal with that throughout the entire time I've lived in this house.
That is definitely a plus. All right. Well, this is good enough. We have our little icons on the screen now. We have the problematic fan art on screen. We're all good.
Problematic AF.
Boy, I miss the days when that was just a fictional Dragon Ball series.
I miss the days when a lot of things are just fictional Dragon Ball series or references, like over 9,000.
Well, I guess that is now immortalized as a meme.
Yeah, just what I was looking for.
Bad video settings. What does that have to do with anything? Please use a keyframe frequency of 4 seconds or less. Currently, keyframes are not being sent often enough, which will cause buffering. Oh, damn. Is that something I can fix under OBS? Apparently not, because it doesn't look like there's anything. Well, maybe broadcast settings. No. Well, I guess you will have to. Doesn't seem to be buffering. Well, that's a good sign at least. Hopefully, it will just agree with us or not in agreement and not give us any trouble.
Or disengage if it disagrees. Or wish us well.
Oh boy. All right, so mentioning that whole Reddit altercation earlier, I just received a response to that
On the chat or in Twitter?
on Reddit.
Okay.
So the person that said whether it's real or not, it provides a good message has replied. So let me see if I can pull up Chrome on screen. It may or may not work. I think what I have to do is move the order up past these images because seems to be glitching, of course. Come on, Chrome. Don't fail me now. All right, here we go. Got it. Great. So I said, real or not, talk about ignorant. If it's not real, then it completely loses its validity and does a disservice to anyone who has actually experienced harassment or sexual assault. You're making it about my personal feelings, which it has absolutely nothing to do with. It only goes to show that you took my post personally. I acknowledge those behaviors are a serious issue, but you only saw what you wanted to see. And the reply that I got was, actually, you're the one who's making it about yourself. You're the one who's so caught up in being offended by white males being blanketed that you're dismissing instead of you are dismissing the fact that harassment in tabletop/RPGs is an issue, and you're only doing more to suppress discussion about it. You know, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one that's been actively engaging in discussion about this and have not thrown out any insults, regardless of being called subscriber to Return of Kings, MRA, and whatever other nonsense they said to me. But yet I'm stifling discussion here.
And that was something I didn't discuss when things or when the audio went out, but I should have. I'm getting tired of people saying, "Oh, we need to have a discussion." When has discussing anything really done anything? I've seen rivals, I've seen competitors discuss things. When does that actually lead to substantive action? So you talking about the fact that it exists, what does that do?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it stopping it? Are you having the discussion with the people that are committing the acts? Probably not.
I just find it absolutely ridiculous that these people claim to want to have some sort of discussion, but the only discussion they will accept is blind agreement. When I never said that nobody ever gets harassed. I never said that. But because I didn't just flat out say, yes, this is a problem and we must stamp it out of existence, then that somehow means that I'm offended. I'm not offended. I'm pointing out that you can't generalize people by their race and gender and then say, I'm for social justice and I won't stand for people being generalized based on their race and gender. It doesn't add up.
So long as they identify with the right marginalized group. If they're part of a group that is allegedly not marginalized, then that's different and it doesn't count. I mean, it's a very childish way of thinking. You can't be racist unless you were in a position of power. That's a childish way of thinking. That is you saying, I see people being racist and it is usually this group of people, and history has shown that they've been in power, so therefore you can't be you can't be racist if you're not part of that group. If you're part of the marginalized group, you can't be sexist or racist or any of those things, which is asinine.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty tired of the whole prejudice plus power equals racism thing, because the most ironic part about all that is that the people that suffered racism the worst, that are now either long dead or very old, are not the ones out there that tried to make a movement that countered with racism. Yet you
Right.
have these kids that wouldn't know real oppression. They think not having an iPad is oppression, and somehow they've decided that on behalf of all the people that were wronged before their existence, they're going to go and create this argument where only certain people can be this label, and it's okay to use their arguments against them, even though they may or may not be guilty of the things you are saying.
I mean, it's the Bernie Sanders paradox, where you have these people saying, "Oh, these people are horrible, and we need this for the sake of having it, for the sake of diversity, because this people are doing these horrible things." But then they want to go with the person that is the embodiment of everything that they are allegedly against. And apparently, if you don't support him, the heterosexual white male that is supposed to be the very image of evil, you're wrong, and you are not doing what you're supposed to do. So you must be against, or you must be pro oppression, or whatever they want to call it. Pro censorship on one side, pro oppression on the other.
Yeah, so basically, I just said, you claiming I am offended does not make it so. I haven't dismissed anything. What I did was point out hypocrisy in their reasoning. You cannot be against harassment based on race and gender, and then counter with something that generalizes based on those aspects. I have no problems acknowledging the existence of harassment, nor do I have a problem with calling it out if and when I see it happen. As I said, you're making this personal when all I did was give an opinion based on the way the material was presented. I'm one of the people in this thread actively participating in discussion. I've had labels attributed to me that do not apply, and I have not insulted anyone. I've remained calm and simply stated my stance. I refuse to make this a back and forth about me personally, because that's not what it's about, but they're trying to get me to say... I imagine what they're trying to do is get an emotional response from me where then they can go and point and say, oh, look, well, I knew you were a bigot all along.
Right, we touched a nerve, or some such nonsense.
I mean, I couldn't have stated my reasonings on those subjects any clearer than I already have, so I feel like at this point all people are going to do is try to nitpick me as an individual, or, well, I should say probably as part of a group, because they're going to pull that you're just being an offended white male deal, because, the only way that you can speak on behalf of what could be perceived as an injustice is if it's personally affecting you. This actually, even though it's aimed at white males, this does not affect me on a personal level at all, because I don't personally harass anybody.
And it can really be anybody.
Right, they
Anybody
have
can
no
do the
context
harassment.
as to, right, and they also have no context as to who I am or what I am. I mean, this is Reddit. I don't have I don't have anything personal on there that they could identify me with. I suppose if they wanted, they could search my username or something, but that would be slightly ridiculous considering that it's not a personal discussion.
I mean, that's like when people are like, "Oh, well, you're a liberal and a cuck or whatever they want to
Maybe
say."
I should screenshot some comment and upload it to like Imager or something and show them where I've been called something like that and be like, "All right, what now?"
Where's your social justice now?
You know what's amazing? Those people that are so invested in it, they drive the moderate people away. And I'm not going to be like, "Oh, this is, justification for someone to become a batshit crazy anti-feminist or a race realist or some other extreme nonsense." But they take people that already agree with them
And antagonize
and
them.
then antagonize them and make them say, "Hey, you know what? You're an asshole. I'm not even going to bother with this anymore." Like your issues are non-issues because all you do is if somebody doesn't just flat out conform to your exact statement the way you said it, then they're a bad person. And the amazing part is, like I said, I have acknowledged multiple times that harassment is an issue. Whether that's a gaming related one only, I don't think so. I mean, there's just issue with that in general. Bullying has always been a thing. Obviously, when you have people that are of opposite genders or other races, when somebody's bullying you, they're going to use those aspects against you because they know that it will bother you. That's just kind of what insulting is. You find something different about somebody and you hone in on it and you point it out and you make it as though it's a bad thing.
And surprise, surprise, doing so in hopes of getting an emotion out of them.
Which it seems to do very easily.
Even when you're not trying, when you're trying to have a discussion.
I
Which,
guess that what they expected was to just post that link and get a bunch of upvotes for it or something, and that's it. It's more of pandering to the narrative than trying to have an actual discussion.
that's all it ever is, really.
That kind of it's a non segue because I'm just gonna go straight into the next thing. Um, Kotaku once again has flexed their genius muscle. So Nintendo, it's the 30th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. I don't remember when the exact date was, but it wasn't too long ago, I think. Um, but somebody did a 3D Legend of Zelda tribute game in a browser, and I
A
tried it out.
JavaScript game. So the funny thing is they've already shown better development prowess than Zoe Quinn.
So I tried it out. It's not, it wasn't bad. It was kind of neat. I mean, I don't need the whole 3D remake. If I really want to play Legend of Zelda, I'm perfectly fine going back and playing the original. But it was a neat thing to see kind of a Minecraft style graphics remake of the original Zelda. And I believe it had they completed up to the first 3 dungeons, and they were going to keep developing as time went on. Sure enough, Kotaku decided to highlight this and make a big deal about it and post it, and then a couple of days later, they give an update post. "Oh, Nintendo's asked the makers of that lovely 3D Legend of Zelda tribute game to pull it down." And they basically put no context to this. They take no responsibility or anything of the sort. And I'm not going to place the blame entirely on them, but they have a massive audience. If you post something that is copyright infringement, and Nintendo probably surely looks at this website, they're going to see it, and they're going to do their cease and desist. And whether or not it's their fault,
Nintendo doesn't probably look at it. They almost definitely look at it, given given how they blatantly filleted their treehouse department.
yeah, that's true. So while nobody's ever come out and said, "Oh, it's definitely we saw this on Kotaku, so we decided to send you the cease and desist," it's pretty obvious where it's coming from. I mean, if websites with large platforms report on these things, it does call attention to it. So whether it's Kotaku specifically or some other website that reported on it, I only saw the Kotaku one. I'm sure there were others that posted as well. But we've seen this happen time and again. I believe there was the Metal Gear Solid remake, there was Chrono Trigger Resurrection, so many projects that this website has cast light on, and then shortly after they were taken down. And you just think that if they actually cared about gaming, they would worry less about the clicks and more about keeping these projects on the down low up until they're able to be released. Because really, there's no sense in bringing too much attention to this while it's just a work in progress. I mean, yeah, okay, you could claim, well, the attention will inspire the developers to, there will be a hype surrounding it, the developers will be more inclined to work harder and release it, but at the same time, you also have to keep in mind that this is a copyrighted intellectual property, and the company that they are taking this property from frowns upon these kinds of projects.
Except for Mother 3 for some reason.
Oddly enough, yeah. And I'm still there were like I said there were hints about that having an official release, but they never made good on that. So I don't know what the deal is there. And the amazing thing is that it would be insanely easy for them to release that over here officially, because the guy that did the translation for Mother 3 said, "Nintendo, you can have my translation, no compensation required." Which I would imagine would also lead to them removing the translation patch from the website and so forth.
But I guess their lawyers have other things to do with their time, like nothing. Because I don't think they're doing anything with Legend of Zelda, even though it's the 30th anniversary.
Oh yeah, I don't think they're releasing any kind of 30th anniversary tribute, but they are working on that title, the next Zelda title, which was supposed to be Wii U, but now I think it's going to be on the NX or whatever next generation system it is that they're doing.
Or whatever. Who can keep up these days with all the things that they've been saying? What with sales of really most consoles and not even doing nearly as well as they were in the previous generations.
I know Wii U did very poorly compared to everything else, and just for console sales in general. Which, it's kind of depressing because it's not a bad system, but first of all, I'm not a fan of the gimmicky thing where it's like, oh, you've got this massive controller and it's also a screen, and yeah, it had its use for, say, Mario Maker,
And
where you could use the
Mario 3D World.
Yeah, I don't know what else really utilizes it because I don't have a lot of Wii U games. But
because you stole it, of course.
yeah. But overall, I basically have a Wii U that is a Mario Maker system because that's the game I played the most, and I have like 2 other games. PS4, I sadly don't have that many games for it either, and it's not something that I've been picking up often, so it's kind of just like you have a $400 paperweight,
and that's the best-selling console for the generation, not counting the 3DS, which is the best-selling, but it pales, at least sales-wise, it pales in comparison to the DS.
Well, I hate to be I'm not going to say it like that because I don't, like, oh, I'm a true gamer or something like that, but I think what's happening is that they are catering to the AAA crowd, and that's never something that I've been really into. So for me, it's like there's not too many interesting games that I really care to get into, because people get, people buy their yearly Call of Duty and they play online and they get replay value, I guess, out of playing online and doing their prestige classes and getting their kill death ratios as good as possible. But that's just not my interest. So if I buy a game and then I finish it, I've got nothing until the next good game that I want to play comes out. The only game that I actually finished on PS4, though, was oddly enough the remake of Uncharted, which I liked, but it was short. I think it was only like a maybe 5-6 hour game.
Which is another problem with AAA gaming, in my opinion.
Are they short?
Yeah, I've played a lot of games, even games I like that feel really short.
I mean, length doesn't always necessarily equal good.
I mean, I've
Ladies.
been
No,
playing, yeah, I've been playing countless NES and Super NES games. I mean, I'm playing a game that's really beatable in probably an hour.
I guess my biggest problem is I don't feel like there are games that have lots of replay value. Or that, and most at about the halfway point kind of become a chore to finish. So it's like I'll be really excited to play something. I'll pick it up for however many hours, get to the midpoint, and then I'll be kind of like, well, I like it. I want to finish it, but at the same time, it's not a priority, so I'll just put it down and leave it. And I feel like that never used to happen to me. I would buy a game, I would love it, I would be excited to play it from beginning to end, and then even after I finished it, I would have reason to always come back to it and be like, this is still a great game.
Like the game I'm playing right now. I mean,
That
this game came out in what, 91? So 25 years ago, and I'm still playing it. And there are games that came out days ago, or
the
year,
one
a few
there
years ago.
is one game I'm looking forward to in particular, and I'm hoping that it's not cursed by the Nintendo Treehouse style of localization, but given the fact that they already botched the English title, I'm not sure how much hope I have on that.
I have a feeling I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's that Setsuna game. It's like the Japanese title is like Setsuna of Sacrifice and Snow, which I think sounds like a pretty cool title, but they have for some reason localized that to simply I am Setsuna.
I feel like that's a hashtag campaign or something.
It feels like it should be.
I have, I of course have heard of the game, and I have heard the subsequent negative feedback on Japanese review sites or Japanese retail sites that have reviews. But I actually am not. There's no game I'm looking forward to this year at all. Although there might be one, there might be a good one that comes out that I might hear about later. But so far, there's nothing I've seen of late that makes me say, "Man, I really can't wait to buy this or wait for this to come out." I'd have to be able to make sure it runs on my PC anyway, since I don't have any consoles.
Oh, Bravely Second is another game that's coming out, or it might already be out. I don't even know, to be honest. I haven't been paying attention. But I still have to finish the first one, and on top of that, I don't think I would buy it just because they did that whole nonsense where, like, oh, one of the outfits in the game is a Native American, so that has to change to a cowboy because somehow that's less offensive. It's just the dumbest, most trivial stuff.
That is,
I
yeah,
just want to know who's playing this and then looking at it and getting angry and saying, I can't play this game anymore. This is too offensive.
Well, I wondered that back in the days of the Nintendo seal of quality, which just meant, hey, we're going to censor a lot of things in the game. I wondered who was getting offended enough for that to even be a concern.
Yeah,
I
that
honestly think that was a proactive measure, as evidenced by the fact that when Mortal Kombat came out, they were clamoring for,
how
or irresponsible parents were clamoring for some sort of system so that they could be further complacent and lazy.
yeah. It just bothers me. We already have a rating system now. If there is
Even
material that
Japan has one now.
Yeah, if there is material that could be construed as offensive, and we know just at the drop of a hat anything can be now, put it on the damn label and let people decide for themselves whether or not they want to buy it. I really don't think that we need to go back to the 90s, the early 90s of video gaming, where they even had to change the imagery of a cross on a building.
On such or the aforementioned Castlevania series. That was very common because crosses were apparently too offensive.
I'm just amazed because everybody is talking about, oh, it's 2016, progress, blah, 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 yet somehow we're going backwards. And it's arguably worse.
Because it's certainly not doing anything positive. I'm not going and saying, man, these changes that people have arbitrarily made to a game enriches it somehow.
I'm actually curious as to how they believe it enriches society at all. I mean,
Well,
first.
there are people that did that with whatever that dumb game is with the breast slider or whatever it
Oh,
is.
Xenoblade? 8 out of
Yeah,
10, it's okay.
yeah. Disappointment 8.5 out of 10. But yeah, there were people that were trying to justify the censorship, which I don't care about, but they're like, "Oh, but this actually makes it better."
Uh, you know, not that I have a massive urge to see an animated 13-year-old girl in a swimsuit.
Robot,
Oh, is was she a robot?
a cyborg or an android or something.
Then
But
how
yeah,
does that even apply? All
I
right.
don't know. Like the fact that I just showed you a Fire Emblem game from when did that come out? Like early 2000s. They
Where
changed
they
they
changed her
changed the
age
female character's age.
from 15 to 18.
Yeah, I
Did
don't
she
know
even
why.
have a relationship in the game or something?
No, there's like a guy in one part of the game who implies that he has an interest in her, but
Because
no,
teenagers never have romances.
yeah, but she herself has never, at least from what I've seen so far, has never been like, oh man, I'm so in love. She's just a nomad, and all she cares about is protecting her friends.
Right. So that actually drives me crazy because the very same social justice people that are calling for this, oh, these people, these fictional female characters are too young to be dressed this way and too young to be looked at as sex objects or relationship objects or whatever the terminology is anymore. And yet they're the very same people that will say, don't shame these girls for having sex, even if they're teenagers. Don't call them sluts. Don't this, you know? It's like, okay, why is it that a fictional character matters more than an actual female?
Or let's not forget the other classic one of there are no female video game characters.
Oh, no major female video game characters. And then you're like,
And she's the
okay.
freaking main character of the game.
Oh, but it's not named after her, so it doesn't apply.
Oh,
Oh wait, even Lara Croft. I guess unless it was Tomb Raider: The Adventures of Lara Croft, then she was finally recognized as a mainstream female character.
but that's only if that were the case. That's only after rewriting her to be a completely uninteresting and even having even less depth than she already had.
I feel like I may have said this before, but like I said, as I have no strong desire to see underage girls in their swimwear in video games, if you really wanted to do that as a human being, you could just go to the beach in the summer and see all the teenage girls doing that in reality. So censoring this in a video game does absolutely nothing. And you could even make the argument, because these people so often blur the lines of fantasy and reality. You could even make the argument that having these young girls in the game dress that way could potentially prevent a male from going out and enacting these fantasies in real life. Now, I'm not
Which
saying
that
I
that
believe
was
that, but
that was the argument they tried to make for the Xenoblade.
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I believe that necessarily, but if they're going to make arguments where people get these ideas from video games and whatnot, well, why wouldn't it work in the opposite way, where if they're not getting it from the video game, they're going to go and they're going to get it in real life?
and and there is some content or some substance to that because of just the numerous cases, especially between teacher and student, of child or child predation or sexual predators. It's become a lot more prevalent, or it's covered a lot more now. You hear a lot about it a lot more, and so it can be totally possible that either it persuades them to do it, or because there's just too much focus on it, or there's not there and there's it's just taboo. They're not getting the counseling they need to get people to stop doing that, which is ultimately what it should come down to. But personal responsibility, what's that? Because that's a big complaint. I mean, that's what a lot of the essence of a lot of these YouTubers are saying. Oh, there should be more personal responsibility, and they never take it. It's let's find somebody to blame for something.
No, personal responsibility doesn't seem to be a thing, and if you recall, I was recently called out as doing an injustice to men for claiming that personal responsibility should be a thing when looked at through the context of relationships. Whereas rather than just throwing up your hands and saying, I give up on women, they're all terrible due to my few personal bad experiences.
I'm gonna hit the opt out button on the email and
Right.
unsubscribe.
I mean, must you be so extreme that you decide that out of the billions of females on the planet, there's absolutely nobody that you could get along with and have a meaningful relationship? And if you're not looking for a meaningful relationship, that's all well and good. But don't complain about it then. Don't complain about the lack of relationships working out if you're not even actively looking for one that's meaningful.
It's like they're trying to say, oh, I'm the hero of the people who are. No, you're not. There are way too many things out there where people seem to be way too overzealous and sharing their opinions about it. When if it's simply your position is just you don't agree with something, why must you then have to tell everybody that you don't agree without provocation?
Yeah,
So
that's what I don't understand, I guess.
So if relationships are so inherently bad, then why must you sit there and smugly wait for somebody to screw up so you can say, "See, you were wrong all this whole time"?
Oh, that reminds me now. For whatever reason, this was popping up in my recommended videos, and I decided to take a look at it. And the title alone will probably cause cancer, so viewers beware. It simply said MGTOW was right. So I go to the video. Naturally, it's some guy complaining about how his wife screwed him over. But then you learn the context of the relationship. She was a Russian mail order bride, and to nobody's surprise, she used him for a green card.
Wow, color me surprised.
So then, if you're going to use this as your narrative spinner, like this is why MGTOW is right. You didn't even go into a relationship by meeting someone organically. You literally paid for it.
But you know what the irony of that all is that that would be the type of thing that they would promote. If they were to agree with marriage in some way, they would do that because they're under the mistaken impression that by getting
those women from that part of the world are more submissive and all that nonsense, like they do with the Asians.
yes, it's basically a throwaway relationship, a la sex robots, because there's no emotion tied to it. So it's a purely logical and rational approach to
You are
relationships.
about to enter the stupid zone. I've always wanted to do a Twilight Zone parody intro for my videos. I still have to create one at one point. But
But I
I need somebody to do a Rod Serling impression because I can't do one.
I doubt I could do one.
He has a very unique voice. From I don't recall hearing anybody that's pulled off an impression of him very well. So it would be interesting to find somebody that could do it. But yeah, I just find that it's like I understand he's probably hurting pretty bad, but to just say this is why this movement is right, it just seems ridiculous. And he's probably doing it to get support. Maybe he doesn't have a lot of friends, or maybe his family isn't very supportive, and he's hurting. He's in need of some kind of emotional support, and that's his way of getting it.
But the problem now is that I think people are becoming far too addicted to things online. Like if you think about it, the whole notion of I'm going to simply use sex robots suggests that you are basing the survival of your survival on an inanimate object. Is that really that's certainly not a biological way to look at things, because you wouldn't be able to keep or sustain the species if collectively a
Right,
lot of men did that.
if this is actually a replacement for women, as the people that I specifically pointed out, I know people were getting all angry about this, saying you're generalizing men. No, I was responding to the people that specifically said that this was a replacement for women. If they did that and it became an actual popular thing to do, then humanity just won't exist anymore. I don't know what the end goal is here. I mean, I
Is it
think it would take a lot for it to become that extreme, but theoretically, if that's what we're talking about, then that's I don't know.
it's completely feasible that it could happen, simply because, oh, I'm upset because of what's happened in my existence.
There's so many different things you can try now, and there, to be honest, there's almost too many options because social media has added a whole other aspect of stupidity to relationships where people are so addicted to their profiles. You've got the girls that are, and I'll say girls because that's who I date. So I don't have this problem with guys. Um, you've got the girls that will look at their Instagram profiles and their Facebooks and all that nonsense, and they look to it for validation. They will post their stupid selfies and their butt pictures or whatever other sexualized nonsense that they post that's supposedly not for attention but female empowerment. And they rely on these comments and these guys that give them all the likes and the I'm losing my train of thought, but you get the idea. It causes a whole other issue with jealousy
See female MRAs.
and flirtation and all that. Yes, they do get a bunch of attention, unwarranted at that, simply for speaking the right narrative, which supposedly doesn't happen on that side of the spectrum, but that's very much false. But yeah, I feel like it's almost too many options to the point now where people can't appreciate what they have in front of them and they worry that they're missing out on something else. And I'm sure that was a problem prior to social media and relationships, but now you have it almost on a worldwide scale where absolutely anybody can see your profile at any time, and if you add them to your friend list, they're part of your life in some regard, and they can comment to you, they can message you, they can give you the attention that you're looking for. And
Well,
you can
there's also the other problem of everything is becoming algorithmic. So, in terms of content, in terms of what people see, it's all algorithmically generated. These companies are deciding what they think is
what you
right for
see.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it comes to a point where if you only look up a certain thing, that's all you're going to keep getting. Like I was finally able to diversify, if you will, my recommended videos because I started going out of my way to like watch different stuff. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to concentrate on watching all the bullshit anymore. I'm going to just go and I'm going to look at things that I like and that aren't going to give me a headache. So, I looked up more music. I looked up more gaming, Dungeons and Dragons related things. And that's what I get on my recommended now. I still get thrown in the social justice stupidity or
This
the
week in
MGTOW
stupid.
or, yeah, whatever else. But for the most part, it's been overtaken by things I actually like. But when you're looking at things that you don't that make you angry and you're just going to see more and more of it, you end up with the worldview that this is prominent, this is what is, and then it just leads to more
I,
bias on your side.
I mean, I have had people in the real world basically saying all this Tumblr social justice stuff is creeping its way into the real world, and to some extent it probably is, but not not to the extreme levels that they're claiming it is.
Right. Well, the interesting thing that I think I brought up to you yesterday was that we've got all these people saying that feminism is so prominent and it's, everybody's indoctrinated and gynocentric society, but yet they throw up the talking point that only something like it's either somewhere between 13 and 18% of women in the US or in the West. I'm not sure which the statistic is. It's one of the two. 13 to 18% of women identify as feminists. That is not a big amount.
I mean, on an absolute scale, it somewhat is, but relatively speaking, it isn't. I mean,
Right.
if we're talking U.S. only, uh, if it's 13 to 15%, then it's like 39 million.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a lot of people.
Or not 39 million, no, more like 19 and a half,
I mean,
close to 20 million.
there's no denying that that's a lot of people. But if you look at like, I guess I'm looking at it as pure percentage. Like, okay, 13% versus 87%, and it's like, all right, the majority doesn't agree with this.
Yeah, the remaining of the 150, 160, well, 200, 210 million women don't agree.
Uh,
And funnily enough, that I have to explain what I guess third wave feminism is primarily to women.
That's interesting. So we got a comment, but the problem is how pervasive it is in the mainstream media and politics.
And there is definitely some validity to that fact,
Oh, there is.
that that it is prevalent. But you have to think how the average person is reacting to this. And like you said, still moderate. Of course, they're not, a lot of times they're just going to hear something and they're not going to look at it all the way through.
Yeah, like
But
my my friends or people that were in my life at some point, when I talked to them about this stuff or when it came to their attention, they had no idea what it is. I had to kind of explain it, and then they're like, "Really? People think like that? That's stupid."
yes, and the other thing to consider as far as the media is involved is that it's a particular brand of media. So those that don't agree with their politics are already not watching in MSNBC and the like.
Yeah.
They are watching Fox News and whatever else they want to watch because that's going to tell them what they want to hear. So they're not going to go and watch those things. It's really the moderates, which, as you say, the minute they log online and they have a conversation with these people, they get turned off by the fact that everything that, because they don't blindly agree with them, they're considered wrong. So they just say, okay, well, this clearly isn't for me and I'm not interested.
Yeah, so they either continue not paying attention or they go the opposite extreme and start to, speak out very openly about it. Um the other thing that I was going to mention was I saw this in passing where, because it had to do with media, the news, there was a news station that actually had a debate about whether Thomas the Tank Engine was racist.
And you know that actually reminds me of another thing. The media coverage is also partially, I mean entirely. You're talking about an industry that subsists entirely on viewership. That is their bread and butter. That's how they get advertisements, which is what gets them the revenue that they need. So they can't care heavily about ratings. If they think something ridiculous is controversial enough to get people to tune in, why wouldn't they have these kind of ridiculous discussions?
It's
Do they
actually
agree with it? Probably not.
yeah. I have to wonder if they get a good laugh at it after the screen goes black because goes black. Now I'm the racist. Um, but yeah, they were trying to say that um, Thomas the Tank Engine wasn't diverse enough, and then they also brought up how the bad engines, their smoke that came out of their smokestack was black, whereas the good engines were gray smoke. So they're like looking at it, whereas somehow the smoke represents skin color, and it's just absolute nonsense. And I guess they were. The funny thing is, there was a commercial from the one of the people that work on the show talking about their new movie. Which, by the way, Thomas the Tank Engine looks like shit now. It's CGI. I used to watch it a little bit when I was a kid, and I liked the whole. They almost had like a combination of model train and claymation, and I really liked that animation style. And now they have this stupid CGI crap, and it looks like garbage. But nobody's complaining about that, and that's what they really should be complaining
Well, I
about.
mean, this generation watch or enjoys Family Guy. So obviously, when it comes to merit of animated uh, characters and media, and entertainment, they're not really the first to complain.
Oh, but I kind of got off on a tangent there. What I was originally saying was that the one of the guys that worked on the show in this commercial for the new movie, he was talking about how they diversified the lineup, and that they in the new movie it was called The Great Race. So apparently that was some kind of nod to white people as being superior, even though it had nothing to do with that. Um, they diversified the cast by adding into the movie a bunch of steam engines from various countries. So there was a German one, a Russian one,
So
Asian,
European
Indian,
countries.
right? Asian, Indian. I forgot what else. There were other countries, but apparently somehow that wasn't good enough. And then they were going into how well they better be careful or else it'll be stereotypical representations. And it's like, okay, what do you want as an identifier for these people? Because if you have a foreigner coming into your country from their country, there are going to be differences that you just can't ignore. They're going to have an accent. That's not stereotypical, that's reality. I mean, if you made it where it wasn't an international person, but it was somebody that happened to be of a different ethnicity, sure, then you have the argument that, okay, maybe they don't have the accent because they were born here and they speak like everybody else.
Like Maylene.
There you go. Although I still support the accent till my death. But I just feel like it's ridiculous that they're looking at all these children's shows, and they're not even human beings that they're looking at. They're looking at steam engines or whatever they are. I don't know if they're steam engines or the newer kind of train, but the fact remains that they're picking it apart as though it's something that matters. It's people, it's adults inserting their politics into children's television. These kids aren't looking at this and thinking, "Oh, Thomas the Tank Engine hates black people." There's not even any. There's barely any human beings in that show, from what I remember.
Yeah, there's no Kanye West looking at Thomas the Tank Engine saying whoever the director is doesn't care about black people.
But if there was, he would create a video game about them or something.
And his mother, since she died. So that means you need to make a video game and run for president.
President?
Yeah, he's some video he said he was running for president in 2020.
Nice. Well, I mean, why not, right? We had Arnold Schwarzenegger as a governor, and you've got you're fired Donald Trump running for president now. Why not? Why not just go all out? Let's go total celebrity.
That's clearly the way to that election should run now.
Oh, I mean, ultimately they're popularity contests anyway, so I guess you might as well throw in the people or throw in the individuals that people actually worship.
No, I don't think I want uh, Thunderfoot and Amazing Atheist running.
Uh, I want Arnold as president. I mean, it would be pretty funny if he went all Terminator style.
If only he could run for president. But I mean, I guess they're letting Ted Cruz run, and that should barely he should barely qualify. And I'm not talking about on issues. I'm talking merely about the fact he was born in Canada.
Oh, that's right. How does that even work then? I thought the whole thing was that you had because weren't people trying to originally start something about Obama in regards to that?
Yes. I guess they're trying to say since he had one American parent, that he can still technically get. He can still have the natural born.
Ah, okay. Oh,
Even though he lives or he's from Houston, so that alone should be reason enough to not qualify him.
hashtag the Houstoning,
Yeah.
which sadly nobody's going to get, but it's still funny anyway.
Well, at least they forgot about that other thing, whatever it was called, the triggering.
Yeah. Ugh. What a lovely day that was.
And didn't get the support they were hoping.
I'm sure it'll be back next year, and then Age of Shitlords can write about it or something.
Once they have the ability to learn how a keyboard works,
They'll learn all the shortcuts.
they'll take the Kotaku approach to journalism.
That's pretty much what it is. I mean, I don't know anybody that actually reads. Well, actually, I do, considering it was used as a source for one of Alpha Omega Sin's videos.
Oh boy.
I got a good laugh out of that.
That's like that person that used Stormfront as a source.
Oh, for the IQs.
Yeah.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Who could forget that? You haven't provided any evidence.
Sure, I have www.stormfront dot whatever or Daily Stormer. I forgot what the actual URL is, to be honest.
I don't know. I haven't looked at that website in any real capacities since 2002, so.
Oh, it's been around that long?
Yep, and it's been that terrible that long, too.
Have they at least got with the times and upgraded the look of the website as time went on?
Yeah, but it looked like it was made in '94 in 2002, so.
Oh, so now they're probably up to 2002 standards.
Yeah. They're up to the tables for layout and don't know what CSS is. I mean, it was terrible. It was really bad. It was like how TV makes websites look.
You can view Daily Stormer in 4K or something.
Yeah, although it'll probably would say the best resolution is 800 by 600 or something.
Apparently, the Space Jam website still exists.
Yeah, there are a couple of video game websites that still exist.
Weren't they talking about doing a sequel to this or something?
Yeah, a Space Jam sequel and among other things.
I I really don't want to see any more uh, remakes.
or reboots, as they call them now, to excuse the fact that they're still using the same. Like I've had enough Batman reboots and stories. We've had the whatever his name, whatever that pretentious guy's name is, the Tim Burton ones. We had the Joel Schumacher, whatever those were. We had the Nolan Batman series, and then this atrocity known as Batman versus Superman. I think we don't need any more Batman.
There's so many. Well, they've done the same thing with Spider-Man. Marvel has done pretty much the same thing with Spider-Man.
Yeah, because I remember when I was a teenager, they had the Tobey Maguire or
Yeah.
the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and then they brought those back like 2 or 3 years ago, and I don't know who the director behind it is. I just know, what is her name, Emma Stone or something. It's one of the love interests, and
Oh.
they gave him a slightly different origin story, and
To,
yeah.
to be honest, I'm not a big superhero movie guy. I don't know what it is, but most of them don't catch my interest. Like I watched, I think, the first two X-Men movies. I didn't even see them in theaters though. I saw them many years later after they were just playing on TV.
I saw X3 in theaters because my friends wanted to see it. And that's really the gist of that story.
Yeah, it's funny. Most of the modern movies that I've seen, it's basically just because somebody else wanted to go. I didn't really have much of a drive to do it either way. It's like, all right, I could sit through it, but I'm not excited or anything.
I'm not blowing my load over it. I only blow my load over Mercedes Carrera, am I right, guys?
Oh God. There's one of the holy trinity that shall not be touched. Well, except for
Yeah,
by swinging dicks, but
yeah.
that's
Not mine though. I like to be D. I like another kind of D&D.
yeah. So I was actually going to do a video about all that downvoting nonsense. Not about what I experienced, but just the concept in general. But I kind of talked about it here. Actually, I did record something last night, but I don't think I'm going to post it anymore because I basically went over most of it here, and I feel like we did a better job of touching all the bases.
But we don't have the hoedown music.
No, we don't. That's the only disappointing part. I suppose I could download the stream, edit it in, and repost it, but that seems like a lot of nonsense for nothing.
Not nonsense. Fun sense.
Oh man. Okay, well, I think that we've covered just about all that I had planned for this evening, and which also went into a couple of unplanned segments, which is always good. We have about between this one and the last and part one, we have about 2 hours of content, and that's pretty good. I mean, I was really only aiming for about an hour and a half, but thank you, technical difficulties. Um, so yeah, we may be back. I'm not sure what we're doing yet, but it's either going to be a bi-weekly or monthly occasion where we will do this stream. So if you enjoyed it, look out for future podcasts.
And
Um,
if you didn't enjoy it, downvote, because those are
yes,
important.
downvote because then we will know exactly what it is you disliked. You know, you click that button and it just triggers something in my brain, and suddenly I know what was wrong with it. All right, thank you everybody for watching. Really appreciate it, and we will see you next time.
Take care.